There's some people who have never heard of the island of Samoa ever. I would give up personally and I would say, have you heard of Hawaii? It's near there. In reality, it's not near there at all.
Many people think we're just passive people. They often mistake it with being lazy.
Lazy.
Hawaiians being lazy.
And even when I tell them, oh, I'm from Guam, like, you're from Guam? Where's Guam?
I would tell people that I'm Tongan. They would be like, so is that like Hawaiian? Is that like the hula dances and the luau's? And oftentimes I would just have to settle and say that that's close enough.
I think when you say Pacific Islanders, the first thing that comes to most people's minds are big sports stars or big athletes.
We're actually pigeonholed into the athletic category, but I was never one to be really into sports.
I've never played sports. And when I tell them that, they insist that I should play sports because that's going to be a waste of height and it's in my genes.
I've been called flying Hawaiian, or I'll be asked do the haka, which is not really a Samoan thing.
They insist they know more about myself than I actually do know about myself.
Hawaii was illegally annexed to the United States. A bunch of American businessmen wanted to have access to the land, and they got the support of the US Navy, and they basically told the Queen, you can let us have rights to your land, or we can fire on you and destroy you.
We are citizens of the United States. Although people back on the islands don't get to vote for president, we are some of the small group of citizens in the United States that don't actually have presidential voting rights.
And I distinctly remember asking my professor, it was the first year of school, did the syllabus, and it was the upper division course, like the last part of your Asian American Studies class, and I asked him, are we ever gonna learn about Pacific Islanders? And he was like, well, unfortunately there isn't a professor who can talk about Pacific Islanders. We won't be able to highlight that. And I was just really upset. And I remember just feeling like I'm gonna self-teach myself if I have to. I'm gonna look at schools that have Pacific Islander studies and teach myself about myself. And that's like the one hardest thing I had to do.
Growing up, seeing things on TV, Hawaiians weren't really portrayed in such a positive way.
And then when they think of Islanders, they always think of like hula dancers or Lilo and Stitch type characters.
Tikis and hula dancing, the wrong kind of hula dancing.
It's tough growing up as a Pacific Islander and maybe feeling that you don't fit into those things that are presented in mainstream media.
The roles I would go out for would be like accented English, foreign exchange student, Harajuku girl, or like a prostitute.
What are some strong values within your cultures?
Oh yes, family is number one.
We always look after one another.
Sometimes I feel like nothing else matters in the world. All that matters is if we have each other.
All my cousins, we all consider each other brother and sisters. And even if people call us like, hey, that's your cousin, like, no, that's my brother.
We always want to feed everybody.
A lot of humility is rooted in being Pacific Islander in general.
Stories are so important, and we would hear from my grandparents and their generation all the stories from when they were growing up. And especially for people from the Mariana Islands, stories typically involve war. And the impact that World War II had on the islands and on our grandparents' generation as they were growing up. My grandmother, when she was 16 years old, was put into a camp. She found out that she was going to be killed, and she fled with her siblings all down to age 2 into a cave where she lived for 18 months. She collected coconuts for water, and she told us how you could make clothing out of coconuts, how you could literally survive off of the coconut.
I actually myself took like a touristy like canoe paddling trip with my dad where we like paddle canoe for a couple hours with this guy who was a guide. He was saying, you know, the native population was wiped out, was just decimated by Captain Cook and like British and American sailors because Hawaiians were not immune to those diseases. Because of that and because of our dwindling numbers, like the Hawaiian race is going to disappear. I just felt such sadness and loss that like our people and our culture will disappear. Oh my God, it's making me emotional just thinking about it. It's very sad. It's very sad when you know that your people are going to fade into time and history.
Take into account, we are real people, we're tangible. We're not your island destination for a getaway.
We have a culture that is different from many others around the world, and we have kind of our unique place in the middle of the Pacific.
Hawaii is really special. The land is alive, it is old, it's really powerful. It's just very special knowing that you have a connection to that.
If you don't know, ask. Don't just assume.
Chamorro people are here. We're a small group, but we are absolutely here.
Especially with our Pacific Islander people, it's okay to struggle. We all struggle, especially as minorities within a minority. You just have to push through.